So does the Pixel 10 Pro XL claw back any ground on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which I think is the de facto biggest and best Android phone that you can go and buy? Let's take a little bit more of a holistic look at this duo and work out which is the right phone for you. So you might think that the Pixel 10, because it looks the same, is going to mean you're going to be able to use those old cases. Well, yeah, they're not going to cut it. So you're going to need a decent case and accessories from our channel sponsor, dbrand. If you have one of the lamer colours, like I have the Obsidian model, then a MagSafe compatible skin might be worth a look for you. Look at that gorgeous hollow white, that definitely looks much better. The grip case though is the best of both worlds if you want to bulk up the protection but add a little extra flavour. All of these skins are compatible over there. I'm personally a big fan of the Ghost Case 2.0 because, well, I ain't covering that Moonstone Pixel 10 Pro XL. It fits like a glove, adds extra grip, adds all the perfect cutouts, and look, it even has double magnets for double MagSafe. Even the Prism screen protectors are completely idiot-proof for people like me who struggle with screen protectors. The screen's much better on the Pixel 10 and these work perfectly with that fingerprint scanner. No problems, super easy to apply, and the perfect protection for that display. If you want to add a little extra flavour and spice to your own Pixel 10, then get yourself kitted out via the link down in the description below. So as popular as the Pixel lineup is, it's simply miles off what is the biggest and best Galaxy phones out there in sales, in mindshare, and I think in overall package to a lot of people. Samsung doesn't do as many bold or brash launches as back in the day, but it still manages as a company to sell millions and millions of phones. And in some ways, it's pretty striking to say that for the first time, Google has actually followed Samsung's lead by retreading old ground a little bit with the Pixel 10 series. I think these are two phones that are really happy to look like their predecessors, and to be honest, I think it works. We did really hit a plateau in smartphone design a while back, and I think sticking to something tried and tested is, in my book, definitely absolutely fine. What I think is less forgivable is resting on laurels though. You could say that that is where both the Galaxy S25 Ultra and the Pixel 10 Pro are at their worst. They have the same design, mostly the same core internals, save a little bit of a chip bump on either of them, and even similar storage options across the board. That is mostly what smartphones have boiled down to in 2025, but it's weird seeing the arbiter of Android and the most significant player on the platform do the same thing with their latest flagship devices. Subjectively though, the Galaxy S25 Ultra is one of the best made smartphones that I have ever used, and I've enjoyed using it since I picked one up. So for the Pixel to get even close to this, I think it is a bit of a testament to how the company has improved Pixel build quality over the past few years. The Galaxy's angular aesthetic makes it quite hard to use without a case, something which I don't think hinders the Pixel, so it definitely gets an extra check mark in the comfortable accessibility options in my book. I also want to say the anti-glare coating and the almost invisible bezels though make up for the gap in maximum brightness differences between these two phones. It is a beautiful panel on the S25 Ultra, and I do think if Google adopted the technology, it would be well worth a minor sacrifice in the maximum brightness levels that those phones are currently offering, in my opinion. You can also use the S Pen with the S25 Ultra, which, although is losing functions year over year and potentially is on the chopping block in the not too distant future, is an incredible productivity tool that no other phone can offer. So if you want the most productive phone out there, yeah, the Galaxy S25 Ultra probably does take the cake. So while the hardware is in some ways a bit of a toss-up, One UI has come a long way in a short space of time. I would personally rank it alongside the Pixel version of Android. That is, until we received QPR1, and this is, in my opinion, the best way to experience mobile software. Sure, it still needs lots of features, it still needs a little bit of refinement, but it's absolutely gorgeous, and the Pixel lineup is the perfect vehicle for Material 3 Expressive, and I don't think we're going to get another phone out there that matches the smooth experience of this in just the software alone. It probably shows just how far ahead Samsung was with One UI on the feature front though, and we're only getting a few of these features that were available on Samsung phones for a number of years now with the Pixel 10 and Android 16 QPR1. The desktop mode is a particular highlight, but that's far from the only nice quality of life addition that you'll find on Pixel phones. Discrepancy aside in terms of functions, it's clean versus heavily skinned. Depending on what region you're in, as the Pixel 10 Pro XL launches, your Galaxy S25 Ultra might not even be running Android 16 yet when you're watching this video. So if you want timely updates, there is only really one place to look, as the Pixel is already a few updates ahead technically. You also miss out on some really cool AI features like Magic Q, plus a few other more Pixel exclusive functions that are aimed at making your life easier, maybe not necessarily being front and center in terms of flashy features that Samsung might try and do. I will say Samsung isn't afraid to add their own AI, but the difference is Google, or at least to Google, is that the Korean tech giant has produced some of the most performant phones on Android in recent years. You can do so much, and it barely taxes a device, from high-end emulation to multitasking at almost laptop and PC level. Yeah, the Tensor G5 chip is fine. It's definitely in the upper to high mid-range, I guess. It almost is. It is a flagship chipset, but not quite, if that makes sense. It can hang in there to an extent, courtesy of refinements on how Android runs on the hardware, but raw performance is always been the weakest component of Tensor chips. That's not necessarily a heavy critique of the Tensor lineup, but one major upside is that it doesn't produce as much heat this year, and any of the AI tasks that you want to do can run locally here as well. Think of it like this. It's a different way of thinking about performance on a smartphone, and that's okay. One saving move for the Pixel 10 Pro XL though is that Google has finally adopted UFS 4.0 storage on 256GB models and above. That is the base option for the Pixel 10 Pro XL this year. It's going to help as the device ages from both a power usage perspective, and because I think it can hide when other system resources start to get bogged down, meaning that you might not notice slowdowns quite as often as you would in previous years. So let's talk about the cameras for a moment, because since the Pixel 10 Pro XL relies on the exact same camera array as the 9 Pro XL, there really isn't much of a difference when comparing it to the Galaxy S25 Ultra beyond one small change. Thanks to the addition of ProRes Zoom, the Pixel can now zoom in at 100x for the first time. Samsung's had it for a few years, I think since the S20 series, but with the help of AI, the images that you take with this mode can be genuinely excellent. Ethically, there's some question marks around how it's used, but I do think if you want a quick snap, it makes photos better, and I'm asking you outright, does that really matter? The Galaxy S25 Ultra and the Pixel 10 Pro XL, I think, could be pitted against each other in the basis of brains versus brawn. Samsung's 200 megapixel main sensor is an absolute beast. It is arguably the best on a phone outside of some of these insane Chinese phones with their massive sensors out there. Regarding overall raw specifications, the Galaxy S25 Ultra has a big edge here. There is that weird 3x 10 megapixel sensor, but the 50 megapixel 5x telephoto that can itself do up to 100x, and that quad camera sensor at the back really is one of those most flexible in the real world. That said, the Pixel definitely hangs in there. I just like to see some improvements, at least in software tuning, as this phone starts to age and progress, which is something that Samsung might not do with the S25 Ultra. I will say I've been thoroughly impressed with the longevity of the Pixel 10 Pro XL. I think it has decent battery. The Galaxy S25 Ultra has great battery though. Unless you are doing lots of battery intensive tasks, for the most part they're very comparable, but the Samsung definitely has an edge in our testing despite having a marginally smaller battery tucked away inside. Charging is rated the same too, 45 watts on both phones. I think it's closer to about 40 watts in the real world, but the charging curve means that you can get the Pixel up to 70% battery in just 30 minutes with a 45 watt charger. Once you throw in that 25 watt Qi magnet charging, I think it's hard not to argue that the Pixel does have some better charging options with it, and it opens up the accessory ecosystem with Pixel Snap aka MagSafe, which you just won't get without a case on the Samsung, which is something that you need to make a decision if it is important to you. Let's cut to the chase here. I think at $1,000 plus, there are a few smartphones that are truly worth their asking price, period, anywhere, whatever it is. The Galaxy S25 Ultra has dropped drastically in price, and I do think it still stands apart as one of the best total packages on Android. Yeah, it's not the best in every single area, but it's 8 out of 10 across the board with a few 10 out of 10s thrown in. Rightly or wrongly, I do think this phone is the yardstick for all Google phones, and Samsung Galaxy phones have been for a number of years. And while I don't think the needle has been moved all too much, the day-to-day experience with the Pixel 10 Pro XL definitely gets closer than it ever has done before. Maybe not close enough to worry Samsung, but somewhere over the horizon, it's in the rear view. There is a really nice small sliver of Google slowly starting to make ground. As for the all-important chip, which many of you complain about out there, well, Tensor, it's still a way off in the distance from what the Qualcomm highest-end Qualcomm chips can do. But I do think now that TSMC is in the driving seat, we might start to get some major performance gains over the next iterations. And that is something it feels like we're saying every single year. I think it's almost integral that Google really does start to do that and start to improve the performance of these chips for device longevity. Maybe even for brand perception. You can avoid competing for a while, but eventually you need to offer something that at least challenges the competition or starts to upset the competition, as it were. While it's coming up almost a year on the market, the Galaxy S25 Ultra though, it really hasn't budged from the upper echelons of the best phones that you can go out and buy. The Pixel 10 Pro XL, I don't think personally that it usurps it on paper, it barely even budges it. But we all know specs only tell one portion of the story with Pixel phones, and like just about every Pixel phone to date, it does belie its internals to offer something that feels especially premium. Maybe not quite worth $1,000 plus, but no matter which device you prefer, I do think you're getting a great package that they'll serve you well, they'll be updated for a long time, and you just need to make that decision whether or not you're getting groundbreaking functionality in either chassis. Is it worth it to you? Yeah, you're gonna have to make that decision for yourself. Samsung fans, I wanna hear from you though. Give me your thoughts. Pixel fans, give me your thoughts. I know a lot of you are very, very passionate about this. I have to say I personally love the S25 Ultra hardware, but for me it's material through expressive. It's been a major change and something I've wanted to see for a long time. It's just so damn good to use day to day. I'm actually using both of these phones simultaneously, so I'm a little bit of a hypocrite as I'm straddling both sides of the fence here. That is just testament to how hard it has been to determine which phone I enjoy more. Anyway, enough from me. Tell me what you think down in the comment sections below, and until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you later.